Boy, I'm on a roll today. A few years ago, when the immigration problem really hit a high note because of the borders, we had open borders, and there was a lot of drugs coming in. There was a lot of human trafficking. And there was a strategy also to overload our welfare system. It's called the Cliven-Piven strategy. And I saw through that right away. With open borders, we just had a lot of the wrong people coming in to this country. Some people just wanted to live off the government. And I'm not going to say all. I think some people were using that as a instrument to get into the country and then to get off it eventually, which is pretty hard if you don't have sponsors, if you don't have some sort of trade, if you don't have some sort of education. So it was a program, the Cliven-Piven strategy, really to destroy our infrastructure. And I saw right through that. And I knew we needed a wall. We needed to control our borders. And I did run into a fair amount of flack because of that. I won't mention the people's names because I think their heart was basically in the right place. They just didn't understand what was happening, what was going on. And I researched the Constitution for citizens, normalized citizens of the United States. And doggone it, there really wasn't any answers as far as I was concerned. I just knew we had to do something about our borders. And so, I guess what you call it a gray area. And then we had this saying that went way back, give us your poor, you're tired, you're hungry. And I can understand that because of the oppression and way back when in the rest of the world. And in this country, you could come and get a fair shot at freedom and a fair shot of actually having a life. They called that the American dream. So now, that whole thing has just been ratcheted way, way up. Now, I can understand it to a certain extent because we did have a lot of these cells, these cartels and these cells in this country, drug running, Triagua. I think I pronounced that right. We had a lot of this stuff going on, and they were pretty much doing what they wanted to do and when they wanted to do it. So when Trump came out and said, we're just going to go after the worst of the worst, I was like, I can live with that. And then we're going to go after those that commit fraud on the government, bank fraud, fraud upon the civilians, the citizens of the United States. And there's tons of that because of, everything being electronic, computers, banking, etc. I was all for that too. It's morphed into something else. It really has. There are families, good families, that were responsible parents, that they taught their children good principles. They taught them to keep the law. Many times the Constitution, because it turns out a lot of them understand the Constitution of the United States. The key there for the Trump administration was the anchor babies. Okay. Wow. When they were able to basically destroy that government provision for anchor babies, that just opened the door wide open. It's really interesting. My mom was an anchor baby. My grandfather never became an American citizen. Okay, so that means that she's not an American citizen, and that means that me and my siblings aren't American citizens. See, you start taking some of this stuff personal, looking at your family history and your family tree, and you might be a little bit surprised. So now we really have a rogue government agency called ICE. And, okay, never in the history of law enforcement did they wear masks to cover up their identity. Never in the history of law enforcement did they break into houses, kidnap children without warrants, okay? Never in the history of any law enforcement were they allowed to racial profile. Well, that's exactly what's happening. Also, never in the history of law enforcement were they given carte blanche to shoot people, even if it is rubber bullets, when they're peaceful protesting. And this is why law enforcement in some of these places is actually turning against law enforcement. I should say against ICE. Law enforcement is turning against ICE because all of a sudden everything's kind of changed with protesters. And I think maybe they knew that what was happening, it was better if they just totally peaceful protest and don't throw things and burn things and wreck things. So there's this change that came about, say a month ago, and everybody's peaceful protest. Well, for whatever reason, ICE doesn't want them to do that. They don't want them to peaceful protest. They want to be able to go bang heads, arrest people, gas them, shoot them with rubber bullets, and, play upon the rest of the people like, hey, look at these people, man, we got to get rid of them. Man, things can turn on a dime. And what I'm going to say now is I've thought a lot about these peaceful people, these families, which are being corralled and deported. Some of these people have been here for 2 decades, over 20 years, anchor babies. They have families, and they're getting rounded up, jailed, deported, put in, Crocodile Alligator Island or something like that. 1,200 people just disappeared. 1,200 people. No accounting for them. Think about it. I am going to say that I believe any peaceful family has the right to live in America. Okay, I said it. Quote me. Any peaceful family, and I'm just going to say peaceful, that's it, that wants to have a better life or have a good life, that is family oriented, that loves their children, that is responsible to their children and their families and teach them good principles, has the right to live in America. Period. End of story. I don't care what anybody else says. I don't care what any patriot says, alleged patriot, because I'm starting to think these people's hearts are not in the right place. They go, well, are they illegal? Hey, you know what? That's one and done. You're illegal. Hey, get the hell out of our country. Your country? What did you do to make it your country? That's another interesting concept, okay? How responsible have you been to the Constitution of the United States? How responsible have you been to freedom and other peoples? And actually critically think of what's going on in this country and the world. If you're not critically thinking of what's going on in this country and the world, if you do not have the discernment to know what's going on, you have no right to talk. You really don't. As far as I'm concerned, you don't even have a right to be American. Part of the responsibility of being American is understanding the pure word of the Constitution of the United States and actually enforcing it. Part of being American is being a freedom-loving people. Part of being an American is to believe in God and Jesus Christ as our Savior If you don't have those things, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear what you have to say, because what you have to say is just fluff. It's just fluff. It doesn't mean anything. Over and out.